Welcome to Indiana Trails Communities and Organizations, put on by the Hoosier Rails to Trails Council. And with me is Deven Lindenberg, who is on the staff of the Stora Kinsella Associates. Welcome to the program.
Greetings, thank you.
For how long have you been involved with SKA?
I've been involved with SKA for about the last 3 years. Came here and joined their team in late 2007.
And you are a landscape architect?
Yes, I have background degrees in landscape architecture and urban and regional planning.
Where did you study?
I studied at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana and stayed there through my master's degree in urban and regional planning. And kind of from there spread out all over the country, going from had a stint in Idaho working for the BLM and the federal government.
The Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of Land Management, yes. And had stints here locally in the Midwest working for county and city governments, private firms alike. I was in North Carolina for about 4 years as well, and ended up here.
Now, as a planner, what are you most likely to do in your role?
As a planner, the two professions, landscape architecture and planning, are very intertwined, and it's almost difficult to pull the two apart. But the way I look at it is that planning takes more of a broader foresight approach to what we want something to be or a place to be, and landscape architecture then sort of makes that a reality.
You got on with Stora Kinsella and you become involved with the B&O Trails Association. I wanted to concentrate on that. The B&O Trail out on the west side of Indianapolis going into Hendricks County. How have you been involved with that, and what general matters have you designed on that?
Well, early on, right when I started with the Stora Kinsella team, I was selected as project manager for the B&O Trail project. And as timing had it, as I was coming into the firm, we were starting with the first phase of actual construction, the inaugural phase of the B&O Trail, which started from Raceway Road and went west from there, which is the east side of Hendricks County.
And what were you instructed to do?
Yeah. Well, we were starting a brand new trail that had been in the planning and somewhat permitting stages for probably for the last decade, as I understand it. I think they started some of the early pre-planning back in the early 1990s. After all those years, we finally, the B&O Trail Association finally received enough funding to build the inaugural section of the trail. So being the inaugural section, there were a lot of things that needed to be considered, thought out, and designed that would play a role in all future phases of the trail. Things like wayfinding, identity elements, what is the trail going to be, the actual the dimensions, the layout, and everything. So the first project, the first phase, even though it was only about 1,000 feet in length, it really set the stage for all future design work and what that trail was going to be known as.
Explain what you mean by wayfinding.
Well, wayfinding is a way to let trail users know where they are, know in the larger geography of this region where the trail is, where they can go, what has been constructed, the measurement system of the trail, the mile markers as you go between different sections, things like that. And then identity would be essentially the identity of the trail. And what we want to do is bring some of the history of the B&O Railroad into the identity, and the theme, the railroad theme, the history, and also some of the local community into the trail as well.
So the whole process of your designing signage, the wayfinding, all of this was for a spectacularly short segment, but as you just said, it sets a pattern for what some people would want to be a 60 or 70 mile length to all the way to the Wabash River from Hendricks County or from Claremont.
Mm-hmm.
From 1,000 feet to this multi-mile cross several counties system, you designed the first phase, but you also designed the second phase. And how long is the second phase?
The second phase of the project was a total of approximately 3.2 miles. And unfortunately, it was not contiguous. There was a small gap in the middle, maybe 3/4 of a mile long because of property ownership issues. The B&O Trail Association just didn't own that piece, so we had to skip over it and then continue out the rest of 3.2 miles. This portion of the trail, this Phase 2 3.2 mile section, primarily traverses an urbanized area or a suburbanized area that houses quite a large population. And therefore it was necessary, and I think a good decision was made to build this trail to handle that population, because this portion of the trail here in the suburban area will handle more users than, say, the trail that'll be constructed west of Tilden that doesn't have such a high population. So you have to take those things into consideration, and similar to how you designed roads for capacity, we also have to design our trails for capacity. So early on, we thought it was a necessity to make sure that this trail was appropriately sized, and the size we used was a 12-foot wide asphalt trail with 2-foot stone dust shoulders on each side.
What were some of the very specific details you designed for the trail to be compatible to all these various field conditions?
Well, we do have frequent water crossings, so we did have to have several bridges made, and there are future waterway crossings for successive phases here.
And you've designed or implemented one mechanical device that's the first time it's been used in Indiana. What is this?
We had 4 roadway crossings on this 3-mile section, and 3 of those roadway crossings were county roads with sometimes unposted speed limits. Let's just say they're country roads, and people do travel quite fast on those. So the safety of our trail users was a very serious concern out here. So what we were able to implement on this project is a solar-powered, passively motion-activated flashing beacon system. That's a lot to say in one breath. But essentially what it is it's a special roadway crossing and signal device that alerts vehicles when there is a trail user about to cross. With our system, those flashing lights are only activated when a user is there. And not only is our system activated either by push button, it's also passively activated where we have ultrasonic motion detectors that actually detect a user on the trail and automatically trigger that, even if the user doesn't push the crosswalk button. We've also designed a unique entrance to the roadway. We call it a circular node that has special pavement. It's kind of a 20-foot diameter circular area that also allows us to connect sidewalks and other trails, and it's almost like a mini trail roundabout in a way. But what it does is it compels users to yield and kind of give warning that something's changing here. We're no longer on an asphalt trail. There's a pavement change. There's a visual change to this area. So it's all these kind of subconscious aspects that should help to make these crossings even safer.
3 miles is now being finished in early 2011. What's going to go on with the B&O in the next stages?
Well, we are in the pre-planning stages of the Phase 3 project, and that will take the trail west from 267, which is where the Phase 2 trail ended. So there'll be a crossing there at State Road 267, and we're going to take it west as far as the funding will allow us, and we're hoping we can go all the way to Tilden, which I believe is County Road 575 north, or it could be 500 north. Somewhere around there.
500 east.
500 east, that's right, yes.
So from 267, which is 700 east, to 500, it'd be 2 miles, and it crosses, I believe, Lick Creek or White Lick Creek.
Yes, we do have a major crossing, White Lick Creek, and as you probably know, when the B&O Railroad abandoned this property, they also took, well, everything that was and was not bolted down. That includes the railroad ties, all the steel rails, and unfortunately, all of the bridges as well. But luckily at this location at the White Lick Creek, we do have the existing bridge abutments, which are the concrete piers that the bridge sat on, and we're going to be studying those here in the near future to see if they are in a structural condition that will allow us to reuse them for a new bridge. And we're also investigating the possibility of using an old historic Indiana Department of Transportation bridge as well, which are roadway bridges that are replaced because they're either no longer wide enough or in such an age that they don't necessarily support vehicles anymore. And instead of sending those to the boneyard, they make those available to organizations such as the B&O Trail Association to be reused as pedestrian bridges. So,
and we should clarify that while we talk about the B&O Trail and the B&O Trail Association, the B&O refers to the Baltimore and Ohio, which was the name of the railroad, the dominant railroad for a good portion of the 20th century that ran that line. So B&O stands for Baltimore and Ohio, the railroad from Maryland. How long will it take to study the bridge, to design this 2 mile portion, and how long will it take roughly to build this?
Well, design and permitting could take several months, possibly even a year. But on the Phase 3 project, we have more time. Essentially, right now, the Phase 3 project is not fully funded. So we are currently assisting the B&O Trail Association in finding other sources of funding. We will be submitting grant applications this year, and at the earliest, if they do receive grants, we estimate those funds will not be dispersed until 2013, 2014. So the schedule for the Phase 3 trail is more so tied to the funding aspects more than the planning and design.
Devin, thank you for being here explaining what you've put into the B&O Trail in its first 2 phases and what's gone into the planning and designing of the B&O Trail. What thoughts do you have in concluding?
Well, in conclusion, I would just have to say that, I really compel all Hoosiers, all Indiana users to go out and try to find these trails, to do what they can to help get these trails built and installed, and try to raise the quality of life for other Hoosiers here in Indiana.
By building the B&O, we are putting down some major pathways across the state. Deven Lindenberg, as part of the SKA design team and planning team, thank you for your efforts and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the Indiana Trails Communities and Organization program. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was great to be here.